A very nice sunny day here in Germany, Wesel, and we are trying out the flagship mid-range phone from Honor, the Honor 400 Pro against the flagship, ultra flagship from last year, the Magic 6 RSR. Here you can see the specs on both, and you can see that they have a triple lens setup with a similar kind of focal length, but we have the larger sensors definitely on the Magic 6 RSR. And we also have some front-facing shooters here, and I think we start off with the front-facing videos. So front-facing video, at the beginning we have 0.8 times magnification, and we can also go 1x magnification on the Magic 6 RSR and also on the Honor 400 Pro. So what do you think about those one here? Which one has better HDR, better stabilization? There's only one with autofocus, so if I'm holding this here, you will see it is focusing on the Honor 400 Pro. And the Honor 400 Pro does have autofocus? Nope, it doesn't have autofocus here. So which one is performing better in your opinion? What do you think? Back-facing video now on both. Is the Honor 200 Pro competing against the Magic 6 RSR that has a low-fic sensor, which basically means it can capture better HDR video and photos. So what do you think about this one with the sun in the background? And of course we want to try out the ultra-wide angle as well. First on the Honor 400 Pro and then on the Magic 6 RSR. And now we have the ultra-wide angles on both, and not sticking in on the Magic 6 RSR because it is quite wide there. And yeah, what do you think about those two here? Which one is wider? Definitely the Magic 6 RSR, I think. And what do you think, which one is performing better here in this vlogging kind of setup between those both? Now, zoom test on both. You can see that the Magic 6 RSR is much wider than the 400 Pro. Let's go to 1x, 1x there. And let's go to 3x here on the 400 Pro, and we go to 2 and then 2.6 times zoom. Roughly the same, I think. And now let's try to zoom in even further. This is 10x maximum on the 400 Pro. It's a bit wobbly. Now it's stabilizing itself. Let's go to 10x on the 6 RSR. Which one is performing better here, in your opinion, in terms of video? What do you think? And let's go back to the ultra-wide angle. You can see it is switching on the 6 RSR by zooming out, and it's just a switch on the 400 Pro. Let's start this daylight comparison by taking a look at the front-facing photos. You can clearly see that we have a much more contrasty look here on the Magic 6 RSR. Both are jumping to the portrait mode, by the way. This is why you have this blurry background. And duller colors. It's a bit darker colors, where here everything is a bit brighter, a bit more punchy on the 400 Pro. And this is something that you can see throughout the whole comparison here with all the focal lengths and all the lenses. Talking about focal lengths, 25 millimeters, so it's a crop of the 21 millimeter native lens that we have on the front-facing camera. Facial expressions and details, you can clearly see that the 6 RSR is a bit more sharp. Yes, artificial, we don't have to talk about it. Over sharpening, we don't have to talk about it, but I prefer the bit more warmthy look and a bit more sharper look that we have on the 6 RSR. However, I can acknowledge that the portrait effect is much better with cutting out the hairs on the 400 Pro for sure. And when it comes to dimlit situations, look at the color difference. This is staying consistent on the 6 RSR, where here it's much bluer and here it's much warmer. So we have a difference there, color shift a little bit on the 400 Pro that can lead to a bit of inconsistencies. However, I like the bit more warmer look on the 400 Pro that gives it a bit more of an artificial style, artsy style, not artificial style. Talking about artificial style, both having with the redrawing of eyebrows a bit of difficulties. Yes, it's looking here a bit more realistic on the 6 RSR than this here, a bit more contrasty look on the 400 Pro, but you tell me which one you like of those shots. I think they're very, very similar, not much of a difference. However, if you go to low light situations or dim lit situations like this indoors shot, you can clearly see both, by the way, at 21 millimeters, how much shakier, how much softer it's looking like on the 400 Pro. And I took it multiple times, this is why different shots, and how much sharper it is on the 6 RSR. And always I took it's a different phase expression, different shot, but this is the best shot that I got with the 400 Pro. This is the best shot that I got with the 6 RSR. 6 RSR is clearly the winner for front-facing video, front-facing camera shots, photo shots. Talking about macro-like photography, both utilize their main camera sensor, 24mm on the 400 Pro, 27mm on the Magic 6 RSR. But look at the difference. It looks like two different brands. How is it coming to this? It's simply the sensor size much smaller on the 400 Pro, even though f2.2, 1 to 120th of a second, higher shutter speed a little bit, getting it a little bit darker there. Super macro mode on both doesn't really deserve the name super, because it's not really macro, it's not really super. Both not so great, but a bit more depth of field on the 400 Pro. I rather like to use the telezoom lens, but then I was like shockingly, look at this here, and where are the colors gone? It's the same flower, it's just a few steps back on the 400 Pro and it's completely lifeless. But look at here, how bright, how much punchy this green looks like, and how much dark and duller it looks like on the 6 RSR. Both not very consistent in this situation. But when it comes to the detail level at 68mm, I think the larger sensor size, brighter aperture on the 6 RSR is definitely winning here. And if you want to take up close-up shots, use the telezoom lens on both, because look at the next photo shot. This is 6x and 5x, or 5x and 6x, 135mm on both. Color consistency we don't have to talk about, but the detail levels here on this fly, for example, very nice. And now we come into macro territory, where some can go even closer, but they are not great with macro. Both are not great with macro, but I would pick the 6 RSR for a bit more details that you can see there for sure. It's a bit of artificial, yes, but it is more detailed there. Main camera sensor difference, 24 versus 27mm, but that's not the only difference in terms of focal length, but also the colors. Look at the colors here, comparing them with here, much more punchy colors on the 400 Pro, and this is something that you will see throughout the whole comparison, much more colorful shots on the 400 Pro, even though both have the natural color profile set. And you can see the focus fall off as well. The focus was here on both, but we have a larger sensor on the 6 RSR, smaller sensor on the 400 Pro. The 400 Pro keeps more in focus here, and the Magic 6 RSR has a focus fall off quicker. And this shot here, we can clearly see that the detail levels are artificially sharpened up a lot, maybe a bit too much in my taste on the 400 Pro. In comparison to the 6 RSR, that is a bit soft for sure, and I would really like to sharpen up a little bit, but not to the point as we have it on the 400 Pro. So the 400 Pro is, in my case, losing against the 6 RSR, because we can sharpen up things on the 6 RSR to make it a bit more crispier, but we cannot do the opposite on the 400 Pro. Then portrait shots, this shot just to show the difference, 68-48mm difference, but also here the cutouts, just to show you that yes, they improved the cutouts on the 400 Pro, but it's not perfect yet, but it's way better than what we have on the 6 RSR. Look at the finger here, completely cut out in blur. And the same goes for detail levels, like when you look at the things here, much more artificial looking on the 400 Pro, where it's a bit more natural looking on the 6 RSR. This has something just simply to do with the portrait style that is like utilizing 68mm, so the telezoom lens, and the telezoom lens is much larger on the 6 RSR. This is why you have much more background blur as well. It can also do it much better. Also the colors are much nicer, it's much softer there. This is too sharpened up there and too artificial looking. This is much nicer looking. So yes, for portrait shots, I definitely take the Magic 6 RSR over the Honor 400 Pro, both in the hardcode vibrant default portrait style. Let's talk about 135mm, so the telezoom lenses. This is like 5 and 6x crop, and what we can clearly see is the color difference. Again, much brighter colors, much more punchier colors than here, much more details, much sharper on the 6 RSR. The larger sensor definitely works, and is something that you can clearly see with almost every shot, that there's a bit more details for sure. Headlight, look at this here, look at that. For sure on the 6 RSR, it's a much better sensor. Also here at 68mm, you can clearly see how much more unnatural it's looking like on the 400 Pro, much more natural on the 6 RSR. Different kind of things here, you can clearly see, look at this, look at that. Look at here, the detail levels, much more artificial looking on the 400 Pro. 6 RSR is doing a much better job. And also in terms of color science, I think the 6 RSR is not only better in HDR, both are doing fine here in this shot, but it's much more realistic in terms of colors. Look at this. This is how I remember the sky, how looking like. This is why I was photographing it. And the 400 Pro makes it completely flat because it's lifting out all the shadows or the dark and making everything a bit more blue than it actually was. And then we talk about the ultra-wide angle, very comparable. I think the only difference between those two is the focal length, 30mm, much wider on the 6 RSR, where the 400 Pro is much narrower. In terms of color levels, they are much closer than they were before, but I think overall the sharpening that is applied here on the 400 Pro is not very good. It's a bit over the top, and yeah, it is not the best on the 6 RSR, but it's in general looking a bit better. And when we take a look at the next shot, which much more details there, the colors are much more apparent. The much contrastier look on the 400 Pro, look at the colors here and the darks and everything. It's looking so artificial on the 400 Pro. It's much more natural looking on the 6 RSR. Look at the background here, look at here. It is much less details, much more details here. So this is a huge difference. HDR and detail levels in general. The sharpening with all the little objects here in the shot is a bit hard for the 400 Pro, where the much more details that we have are preserved by even the larger sensor, but also the ultra-wide angle on the 6 RSR is giving us much more details, and the people that are running around, the HDR is working as well, giving us more details around all over the frame. So in general, here the 400 Pro is losing against the 6 RSR. In daylight, I think the 6 RSR is winning in terms of main camera sensor a little bit, in terms of ultra-wide angle for sure, and definitely in terms of the telezoom lens. Night mode now on the Magic 6 RSR. What do you think about the main camera sensor here? It is a pretty large sensor here, but still not the largest, not a 1-inch type sensor. How is the noise here in the background? Walking towards the light, standing now under the light, and walking away from the light in the background there, and walking into the dark while the car is passing by here just in a second, and then turning towards the light. So what do you think about this one here? Internal mics on the Magic 6 RSR. What do you think? Now the Honor 400 Pro, this one is a little bit of a smaller sensor, 101.4 inch size sensor, 200 megapixels however. Do you see a little bit more noise than on the Magic 6 RSR? What do you think about this one here? Walking towards the light, standing now under the light, internal mics like always, light in the background now, walking away from the light. How good is stabilization here? How good is the voice quality? And now turning towards the light. What do you think about this one here? How does it compete against the larger sensor of the Magic 6 RSR? I totally forgot about the Super Night mode on the Magic 6 RSR, which is a special mode that can record in 4K 24 frames per second, which brightens up my face quite well. I'm not outdoors right now, I'm indoors here walking towards my display. And yeah, now the display in the background. How well is this Super Night mode at 4K 24 frames per second working? What do you think about this one here? For some reason the Honor 400 Pro doesn't have a Super Night mode. What it has is a dedicated night video mode. But for some reason this dedicated night video mode is only 1080p 24 frames per second, so no 4K 24 frames per second. Nevertheless, what do you think about this one here? How well is this doing in the same kind of condition here? What do you think about the night video mode on the Honor 400 Pro? Can it compete with the Magic 6 RSR, even though it has a smaller sensor? When we take a look at the nighttime shots, let's get it out of the way. First of all, the telezoom lens, 68 versus 68mm. It's clear as day that this is a day and night difference here. It's a huge difference and huge win for the 6 RSR when it comes to the tele. If you zoom in, yeah, it's getting a bit worse on the 6 RSR, but it's nowhere near to how much worse it is looking on the 400 Pro. So telezoom is definitely a win on the 6 RSR. Selfies are quite very comparable between each other. I can see only slightly difference in terms of sharpness and detail levels on the 6 RSR towards the 6 RSR that has a warmer face again, but also a little bit more details, face expression there than on the 400 Pro, but it's pretty close. And I'm also surprised at this consistency that we have then in the shots, where it's like very close to each other, but I would still prefer that the 6 RSR is doing a bit of a better job there. When it comes to the main camera sensor, it's quite interesting that this more sharpened up look was not working at daylight so much for me on the 400 Pro, but at nighttime it is a bit better, I think, than the Magic 6 RSR. You can clearly see it here in this shot. It's a bit too soft and it's a bit too mushy, and you will see also, I think there's a bit of motion blur at 1/17th of a second that we have on the 6 RSR that we don't have at 1/11th of a second on the 400 Pro. So the algorithms might be also better for nighttime photography on the 400 Pro in terms of detail levels, because I don't remember it being so soft at daylight in comparison. And the same goes then for this shot here, but here we have, I did redo the shot, redo a few shots, and now it's sharp. And now it is even, I think, a little bit better on the 6 RSR in comparison to the 400 Pro, but a little bit more light added there. The algorithms, however, and focus fall off is quite fast, it might be, but the algorithms are also a bit better, I think, on the 400 Pro for the nighttime shot. You can see someone like watching the television there. I can spy on my neighbor, it's cool. We have this like effect there, some kind of reflection. It was taking through glass, so that might be the case here. So the same goes for the ultra-wide angle. A total failure for the Magic 6 RSR, completely unsharp, where it's, yeah, better on the 400 Pro. And it's again very low shutter speed, very comparable. And I think it is having something to do with the nighttime photography on the 6 RSR being weak. I redid a shot, and now, again, very low shutter speeds, but now it's a lot sharper there in comparison, and I think now it's very comparable with each other and a bit brighter even. Has some like reflection again, but it's a bit brighter and slightly bit better maybe on the 6 RSR, but I don't like this blue sky where here it's much more realistic on the 400 Pro. So the 400 Pro is redeeming itself with the night photos a bit, especially when it comes to the ultra-wide angle. And the main camera sensor, also the little bit more sharpening that they add there and the better algorithms is working against the worst night mode that we have on the 6 RSR for some reason. So what do you think? Did you expect them to be so close to each other at night? Write it down in the comment section. Let's talk about the ranking and conclusion. TLDR, the Honor Magic 6 RSR gets 4.510 points, where the Honor 400 Pro gets 4.300 points. So we have a clear winner, that is the Magic 6 RSR. Last year's Ultra flagship from Honor is winning against this year's upper mid-range flagship from Honor. So where are the big differences? It's not the main camera photo quality so much. You can clearly see it is better on the Magic 6 RSR, especially with HDR. Colors I also like a little bit better, but also the bit of more over-processed, sharpened up look on the Honor 400 Pro is not giving it too much of a vibe here. I like it at nighttime, where I think the processing power is a bit better, or the algorithms are a bit better on the 400 Pro. With the Magic 6 RSR, hopefully we'll get an update to fix these issues, because I think in the past it didn't have so much issues with this motion blur that we have there. So yeah, maybe they will fix it there as well, because the 6 RSR has a better sensor and has to perform better. Ultra wide angle is much closer than I thought, but it is a bit better for sure on the Magic 6 RSR. 2 points are better. First of all, the sharpness and detail levels, the HDR, actually 3 points. And then the wide angle of view is better on the Magic 6 RSR. This is why we get here 4.2 against only 4 points. The zoom portrait photo quality is very close, and it's very interesting, but only at daylight, because you can see that the detail levels is definitely better on the 6 RSR there, for sure. It is more detailed, it's less artificial looking, and the cutouts, however, when it comes to the portrait shots, are much better on the 400 Pro, and this is where I think it is climbing up there, because the portrait shots on the 400 Pro look most often a bit nicer than on the 6 RSR, thanks to the better cutouts. Colors, very similar. I think a little bit overcooked on the 400 Pro still, but slightly bit better there on the 400 Pro than on the Magic 6 RSR when it comes to portrait shots. Zoom shots, however, yes, the Honor Magic 6 RSR is winning up to 10, he goes beyond 10 times, but, and both have AI that kicks in when you go beyond 30 times, but when it comes to nighttime, huge difference. The 400 Pro is like losing so much against the 6 RSR that I was surprised that it only gets 4.3 points here, the 6 RSR. I have to recheck against maybe the Vivo X200 Ultra and the X200 Pro to confirm that it's only 4.3 points. Maybe we can go up even higher on the Magic 6 RSR here. But the Honor 400 Pro, quite surprisingly, the 68mm is holding up quite nicely. So 4.2 points definitely you will get here. Also for video recording, I'm a bit disappointed by the 400 Pro there. I think it is like overdoing it with the sharpening that they apply there. Maybe all the cool new algorithms that they put in the photo mode are not really coming or going into the video mode so much, cannot address the deficits in terms of the sensor sizes and weaker sensors that we have there, which is a bit of a bummer because I think it would be a very nice device that would really benefit from such features. Just like when I zoom in, something is nicely zooming in, but when I want to zoom out, that is also zooming out nicely and shows us the animation, but it's not doing this, which is a bit of a bummer here on the 400 Pro, which I don't really like. And also the selfie and the main camera sensor is just over sharpened and it's not so great in terms of video recording. Here the Magic 6 RSR is much better because it's not over sharpening so much. It's giving a nice, good looking video that I really like, that I used also when I was in China, and I liked it very much there because it's not over sharpening everything. You don't see so much sharpening artifacts there. It has its limits for sure because of the sensor sizes, but it's like doing a very well job there. Autofocus performance is almost identical, but the Magic 6 RSR has a benefit, especially when it comes to dim lit situations. The LiDAR sensor is helping definitely when it comes to focusing. Focusing on this flower, for example, the close macro-like shots, much easier on the Magic 6 RSR. It automatically grabbed focus. I could take the shot. On the 400 Pro I had to redo and tap to focus until I got there. Then when it comes to front-facing camera, huge difference in terms of front-facing camera, at least on paper, but not in reality. And this is something where I think my ranking system is a bit weak there because it looks on paper very huge, but it's not so much. It is a huge difference when it comes to taking a photo at low light. The Honor 400 Pro is like failing there almost completely, where the Magic 6 RSR is way better. With the Honor 400 Pro I have to take 3, 4, 5, 6 shots to get something that is usable, otherwise it's super blurry. And the Magic 6 RSR is usually 1 or 2 shots and I'm done with this. And this is something that I noticed that I did not maybe show so much here in this video, but it is a huge difference in terms of what you can achieve in terms of front-facing camera. The Magic 6 RSR has one of the best front-facing cameras in that matter in terms of detail resolution and in terms of low-light capabilities for sure. When it comes to the camera UI, there I think the Magic 6 RSR camera UI is a slightly bit better there than the one on the 400 Pro in terms of one-hand usability and so on. They should be identical, but they're not, which is like a bit of a weirdo kind of situation. Like also the situation on the 400 Pro, I have the ability at 4K recording video to switch to the front-facing camera or from the front-facing to the back-facing cameras, but I cannot do it on the Magic 6 RSR. Come on, Honor. This is something that you can fix for sure. And this is why we have extra features a bit more there on the 400 Pro, because we have this feature that I know that some people really like to have. So what does it mean now for our ranking? Let's take a look. First of all, the Magic 6 RSR is ranked up somewhere here. There you can see it, 11th spot there, so very high. It was like even under the top 10 spots last year still, but it's like overtook by all the Vivos and Oppos and Huaweis of this year or even last year. And when it comes to the Honor 400 Pro, it is ranked number 30s, as you can see here. The 30th spot there, it's like even losing against the Vivo X Fold 5, not because of the main sensor, because I think the main sensor on the 400 Pro is a little bit better. It's also a bit better on the ultra-wide angle front. I think the X Fold 5 is better in terms of the telezoom for sure. And when it comes to video, it is definitely also better, the X Fold 5, in comparison to the 400 Pro, because the 400 Pro is just like too over-sharpened. The rest is almost identical. The front-facing camera is a bit better on the X Fold 5, which is like surprising a little bit. And the rest are like in terms of features and so on, definitely better. But you can see they're very close. The most comparable, would be like to the X Fold 5 would be the Honor 400 Pro for that matter. The Honor 400 Pro is, however, ranked a bit higher than the Honor 200 Pro. We saw it already. It's like 32 spot here. There's not much of a difference actually between those two in terms of main and ultra wide angle, but the telezoom is a little bit of an improvement there for sure, and the rest is almost identical there to the 200 Pro. So if you want to cheap out a little bit, the 200 Pro is still a good choice, because you get almost the same performance for probably a bit of less in terms of what you have to pay. Otherwise, it's very, very nice that it's like very comparable with the Nubia Z70 Ultra, Z60 Ultra actually. Where are the big differences? Not the main camera sensor so much. I like the 35mm a bit better on the Z60 Ultra. The ultra wide angle is better on the Z60 Ultra for sure, much larger, much better. Telezoom, however, it's not so much of a difference to the 800 Pro, to the 400 Pro actually, not 800. Come back to the present, not in the future. Z60 Ultra has a bit better video quality for sure, and the major downside of the Z60 Ultra is definitely the very weak front-facing camera that we have there. Otherwise, very, very close, those two. So I think the Honor 400 Pro is ranked right in the middle there, where it has like the upper mid-range, definitely something where it can like compete against some other devices, top ultra flagships there, which is quite nice indeed, and it is ranked in a good position there. The Magic 6 RSR is ranked as well. It's ranked above the Magic 7 Pro even, which is quite interesting, thanks to its very nice sensor and very good front-facing camera and telezoom performance and color consistencies and so on. I would really like to have the Magic 7 Pro again maybe at one point, or maybe the 7 RSR to compete it against the 6 RSR, but maybe I wait for the Magic 8 series to rank it again, because this promises to have even better camera features and then maybe even be able to compete against the Vivos, Oppos, Xiaomi's and Huawei's of this world. This is it for this comparison. What do you think about this comparison? What do you think about the ranking system and the rank? I know people are always commenting, and I'm trying to get to a new, better ranking system, but what do I do with all the old data here? I have to find a way to transcribe it to a new system, and this is hard to do. So if you come up with nice ideas, write them down in the comment section as well. Otherwise, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Until the next time. Bye. So now it is concluded. The Magic 6 RSR is winning against the 400 Pro. Who was like expecting something else? But yeah, some people are talking about that this was being the flagship killer here. Not so sure about it, to be completely honest. By the way, I'm recording this video here with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra with its Pro video mode, which cinematic master cinema thing turned on. And I'm cutting here because I don't know what to talk about. Mobile workstation basically on my Xiaomi Pad 6 Pro again. Like almost always I'm cutting. Sometimes I'm cutting also on a Magic 6 RSR, because it has via USB Type-C a very nice desktop mode that I can use for cutting videos, which is I think very nice. But CapCut has some issues, and KineMaster sometimes as well with the desktop version. This is why mainly I rely only on the non-desktop version, so just a bigger screen to cut the video. Cutting the video here. This is my mobile workstation basically, and I did not even know that those keyboard things have like backlit. This is very nice. I discovered this when cutting late at night last time. Another video. Talking about another video, I'm just finished recording some samples with the Vivo X Fold 5 and also the, let me show it to you, Huawei Pura X, and I'm very, very excited to see how they compete, because this here currently is the best foldable ranked in my system, where this here is second best, and this is like a very compact flip style kind of foldable, and this one here is a normal book style kind of foldable. So it might be interesting to see which one will win here in this competition. And yeah, showing the Pura X here. If you're interested in the long-term review, I'm still driving this as my main device here for my long-term review. I have HarmonyOS 5.1 already, HarmonyOS Next 5.1 already on top. So yeah, will come at one point for sure, but might be that I'm waiting still and using this a little bit longer. I want to hold on to this a little bit longer. Yeah, what do you think about the video quality here on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. And yeah, the audio quality shouldn't be the best because it's like Xiaomi, and audio quality on their Ultra device is not so great. Anyway, that's it. Bye.